Welcome to the Three Moons, Three Souls podcast with host Jacqueline Burke. On today's special feature, we are talking with Three Moons, Three Souls spiritual spa boutique vendor, Theresa from ARTSYTC. We know you will really enjoy this interview.
Welcome to the podcast, Theresa. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for joining us. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your business that you're doing. What is the name? And if you could tell us a little bit about it.
The name of my business is ARTSYTC.
Yeah.
I've always been the artsy member of my family, and my family also nicknamed me TC. And so that just seemed like a good name to name my business, because basically it's just about me and what I offer and what I do and my belief systems.
Right on. Well, I know I've seen your work and it's just beautiful. Can you tell us when you got interested in doing what you're doing?
So I've always been interested in art. I come from a family of artists. So I've always had kind of a creative flow
Yeah.
going through me that's ancestral. Um, I kind of excelled at art in school, and was told at some point in time that, you're not going to make any money doing that. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll become a lawyer.
Oh, Lord.
Um, let's go to the other end of the spectrum, right?
Right.
Um,
Oh,
but as life turned out, and I made some choices. I traveled when I was 18. I decided I'm not going to take the scholarship to school,
okay.
because I got a scholarship to U of C, and I decided, no, I'm going to go and work in the oil patch because I want to go and visit Australia.
Oh, nice.
And so I did that, and I spent almost a year there. And then when I came home, I muddled into a few other life choices, one of which got me my son, the biggest blessing in my life, and that got me a grandchild as well. So that was
Okay.
a cascade of beautiful blessings. But it was still not my life path. And it wasn't utilizing my creativity either. Um, and I started to discover at some point in time that not utilizing my creativity was not serving my greatest and highest good. And that came through my body
Hmm.
and illnesses, endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's kind of that's part been my path, is that it's very, very interesting how the body shows up when we're not really following our true energy well. And my body, over the years, there have been times when my body has absolutely insisted, you stop now, girl, and you change your direction.
Yeah.
And so I went to art school. I went to ACAD here in Calgary. That's what it was called at the time. I think it's now University of the Arts or something
Oh,
to that
okay.
effect. And I got my Bachelor of Arts degree there. And then once again, I don't know who or how, I went and I painted murals in people's homes for a while, did full finishing and stuff like that. But again, basically I told myself, this is not going to make you a living. You're not going to be able to sustain yourself this way. And so once again, I kind of set that path aside. Um, Professionally, at least, right? I continued. I've always been kind of a tinkerer and a builder, and to create these really wondrous, beautiful things that I put in my yard and that I decorate my house with. And it's like, for heaven's sakes, I'm not going to go out and buy art. I'll just,
Yeah.
this is what this wall needs, and so I'm going to make something that goes there, right? But still, again, for some reason, it was like, no, this is not a way that you can sustain yourself. And so I got a job at a paint store.
Oh,
I figured, well, I mean, this is, kind of a lateral kind of move, right? I can still,
Yeah.
I'm still in paint,
Yeah.
so, know, and so I moved on to color consultations, design work. And so I'd go out and I would help clients that came into the store. I would help them choose colors for their home um, and help them with design decisions. And I came to manage that store that I was at, and I did very, very well with the customers, um, and I started kind of gaining an interest as I was learning design, gaining an interest in feng shui.
Right.
And as I started doing that, I started noticing, really understanding how energy plays a tremendous role in health and in vitality. Um, And so, and so I applied that in my color theory. I taught color theory, and I applied that in my design work when I was helping clients in their home. And I started, asking them, more questions beyond, what colors do you like kind of thing, or, and more questions about, what is your family like? What are the struggles that you're having in your life right now? What are you looking to improve?
Yeah.
And so I started discovering, yeah, placement, design, color, all of those things can drastically shift an energy of a space. That led me to explore Reiki.
Oh, wow.
I was like, well, if energy works this way with placement and with colors, and we have, the chakras and their
Yeah.
colors, and it just kind of, things started kind of tiling in together with me. And and so I just started studying Reiki along with that, and got my Reiki masters, and started helping people through Reiki and through Feng Shui. And all the while, I was still, tinkering with my artistic endeavors in my own home.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, be gifting things to friends and
Yeah.
certainly to family. I mean, as an artist, I don't know a single artist in my life, and I know quite a few artists. I
Yeah.
don't know a single one who doesn't have closets full of art.
Yeah.
They're stuffing canvases under beds. It's we
Yeah.
it's just kind of a natural thing because we get you create, but for some reason, for a lot of people it becomes this kind of hidden thing. And um and again, I started having some health problems. I started the less that I was actually creating, the more I was suffering with those same kind of, in that creative kind of chakra area, my digestion, everything else. And then I started, and still, for whatever reason, my body is screaming at me, to make a change, and my mind is going, well, let's just try something else. So I started studying shamanism.
Oh, nice.
And so, of course, shamanism being the most widely practiced spiritual practice in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Everything, comes from everywhere, from the Celts and the Moors to the indigenous populations of every country. Um, and there are, many commonalities to all of them, even though it's global.
Yeah.
It was fascinating to me how many common elements to shamanism there were over the entire globe. There's specifics, to each area, but there's a lot of really common factors. And so, as part of that, I started making medicine tools.
Oh, nice.
So I learned how to make drums. out of rawhide, and I found some, I sourced out some local people that that were very respectful when harvesting both the wood for the drums and the hides. I learned how to process hide myself. That's a lot of hard work. It's
Yes.
um, and yeah, and so then I started thinking, well, because as I was growing in these circles, you know how you start finding like-minded people,
You do.
right? And and there were people go, oh, I've always wanted a drum, and I'm like, well, I can teach you how to make one. Um, and so I started running some workshops, and I took part of my artistic background and started exploring what if I, how would I paint on drums in a way that I found that a lot of drums that were painted on have the painting that's just kind of sitting on the surface of the drum, and it interferes with the sound of the drum itself, and it creates this kind of plasticky surface that cracks and peels off over time, and so I utilized some of my knowledge from the paint and coatings industry, and a lot of my knowledge from my artistic background, and figured out a way to stain images into the hide so that, should the drum, over time, sometimes the lacing in the back, will get too dried out and will break, and it needs to be restrung. And I didn't want any image that I put on there to be interfered with having to be re-soaked and restrung again. And so I developed this technique to stain images in a layering technique, kind of like watercolor, I guess, onto the drums. And I found that there were people that were interested in purchasing those.
Yeah.
And so I started making those and selling those.
They're beautiful.
Well, thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Um, and then I started doing some commission work for people that I helped to in the workshops to make their own drum, and we would do shamanic journeying to find their spirit animals or find what they um, wanted to work with within the drum itself, the kind of energy that they were looking at working with. Um, and so then, they would commission me to paint the drums. And then I've always had this kind of ability to be gifted feathers.
Mm.
By Gaia.
Yeah.
I'm every time I'm walking, I'll find feathers and sticks, feathers, sticks and stones, earth medicine, right?
Yeah.
It's and being an artist, I'm very much the raven, the magpie, right? It's like oh, what's this cool funky
Yeah.
thing? That's, oh, that could be pretty. Um, And so, I gather up all of those raw materials, and as I found them, and started making feather fans. And then I found that I had a market for feather fans as well, and people started purchasing those. And so I was kind of, inching my way into, a creative purpose that was also, feeding me energetically as well, right? Um, and I still do Reiki. I still do shamanic Reiki. I kind of marry the two, and I do, treatments for people that way, to help them balance their energy, to help them find their spirit animals. And I still make, whatever it is that I find out in nature. When I was down in Arizona, I found some saguaro cactus. Cactus had been hit by lightning, and the whole it had just completely shed its entire outer casing, and what was left is what's called the ribs of the cactus, which is actually a type of wood that the indigenous people down there would use for building, etc. And they're actually a very sacred plant down there. In fact, when they are living, they are a protected species. They're a keystone plant in the Sonoran Desert in Arizona, California, part of Mexico, because they really are integral to the entire ecosystem down there. And so they hold a lot of energy.
Yeah.
People are very familiar with, the energy of crystals, but everything holds energy. Different feathers from different birds hold energy. Then they hold specific energy to the meaning and the medicine of that particular animal.
Yeah.
And different woods hold different medicines as well, different energies. And so I started making some stuff out of the saguaro cactus. So I have a few of those centerpieces that I have for sale on your online store.
Yeah.
And I'm in the process of making some walking sticks out of that same cactus because it holds just some very, very beautiful energy, and some power wands. So that's where kind of my creative juices are going. And one of the things that I discovered through my workshops, so my workshops are really a big passion of mine, because as much as I can help people with Reiki or shamanism, energy work like that, helping people to access their own creativity again through a workshop in making their own medicine tool, whether it's a feather for smudging, or their own drum, or I've got rattles that I help people make as well, or little shakers. I find it to be really, really healing for people. There are so many people that have, either at some point in time in their life, they were told, that's not what a tree looks like. You're not artistic at all,
Oh.
right?
Yeah.
Like some teacher, some person somewhere has said, you're not artistic. And so they've taken that, oh, I'm not a creative person. Right. So, and the people that I see come into my workshop, like the majority of them, oh, no, I'm not a creative person. You're really going to have to, help me with this. And it's beautiful to see them, come out with just a gorgeous finished product. And it's also beautiful to see them work through the energies that are necessary to come to that fruition, because that's part of the medicine of creating your own medicine tool.
Yeah.
There's, because, as I caution them all the way through, I watch their energies. We start off with a ceremony, and I watch their energies all the way through, and I watch for any of the negativity or any of the, inherent frustrations, the shadow work, right? That needs to be done, their need to control, or their need for perfection, or their need, all of these things. And we're working with natural materials, and there's no perfection in nature.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Beauty is in the imperfections. Beauty is in the flow, is in the, the ability to just relax into it and allow.
Yeah.
And so I find that's probably the most major struggle that most people have when they're doing it, is their own internal dialogue.
Yeah.
Their own what they've learned, what they've been taught their whole life needs to be, right? Or even their own traumas coming up, right? It's like, for some reason, that they've learned that they need to control things because they've, been out of control.
Yeah.
They've learned that they need to be perfect because when they weren't perfect, things didn't go well for them.
Yeah. It's all that
Right?
conditioning, right?
it is. It's our,
Yeah.
it's us kind of, reliving our wounds, right? I know that I've spent a lifetime, kind of trying um, to heal my traumas, my wounds, right? Um, and I'm 60 this year. Well, in fact, I'm 60 today. This is my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Well, thank you so much.
Yay.
So I'm really learning to own the crone,
Yes.
as they say, right?
Oh, you and me both. Yeah.
Right? It's I mean the crone has long gotten a bad name, but I mean, my goodness, we are the wise ones, throughout history.
Yeah.
If you go back far enough before we were, kind of put on the side, right?
Yeah.
We are the wise ones, the ones that utilized our experiences in order to help others navigate,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And and so I'm still navigating. I got to say, I'm still navigating, and my body is still telling me, um, it's like, no, you've got to look at this, you've got to look at that, and that's it's it's work, it's hard work, but it's also a blessing too. My like I said earlier, my body has always been the messenger for me to tell me when I need to make a shift, when I need to make a change, when I need to actually start honoring
Yeah.
myself again,
Yeah.
right?
That's
Um,
important. Can I ask you
it
a
is.
question? I need to ask you
Sure,
a question.
sure.
So as a child, were you still interested in the arts, or were you interested in like spirituality? Like when did you
Um,
start becoming Teresa?
that's interesting. As a child, I was always uh, fascinated by the arts, and I was more fascinated by, I wouldn't necessarily say the arts, I would say nature,
Yeah.
and beauty, right? And how things combined in nature. Um, Spirituality, no, I mean, I went to Sunday school.
Okay.
Um, what I loved most about Sunday school was making I remember making a pouring, an acrylic pouring of a hand that I put sparkles in.
Oh,
I remember making, right? So what I liked about Sunday school,
yeah.
I mean, I remember all of the Old Testament stories and all of those kind of things, but what I loved about it was like, oh, we get to, make this cool, we're making a wreath. We're
Yeah.
making this, right? So it wasn't the spiritual
Yeah.
aspect of Sunday school. In fact, I did not resonate at all with going to church.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was not, I mean, that was the kind of epitome of boredom for me. It was just like, oh,
Yeah.
this never end. But the Sunday school, that was fun. That was good. And so it wasn't really, until much later years. So I was probably in my 40s, when I started, well, maybe not quite in my 40s, in my 30s, I guess, when I started exploring art from an artist standpoint from school, and then energy work. It was very, very different from it was spiritual, but it was not dogmatic,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so that I found resonated with me much, much more. An intuitive process
Right.
rather than a doctorate kind of process of you must follow these kinds, like, oh, that doesn't really, you know, I guess I've always kind of, I mean, I've got my own traumas that I bring to the table, and that I'm continually, when I feel the trigger, it's like, oh yes, okay, that's that trauma, that's that, and so I have a natural kind of pushback against being controlled.
Yeah.
That comes from my traumas, right? It's like, oh no, no, you're not going to tell
Yeah.
me what I have to, if
Yeah.
and I even found that in art school. I would have this, I could see something in my head, and I'm like, oh, that's really beautiful. I think, yes, if I curve this and wave that and do this, and I could see it in my head. And so then I would take it upon myself to start to build it. And if I didn't have the skills, I would go to the woodworking
Oh, cool.
area and say,
Yeah.
how do I, to move, do this or do that? And and the amount of people that said, well, you're never going to be able to do that, or
Oh,
that's not going to work. And I'm just like, well, I don't know, I saw it in my head, so
yeah.
if I could see it in my head,
Yeah.
then and that's kind of been part of my own creative and artistic process, is truly that if I can see it in my head, I know, I've come now to trust that if I can see it in my head, I know that I can make it
Yeah.
uh, 3D reality in this physical world.
Yeah. That's
And I
great
just,
advice to give to someone.
yeah, yeah. So I just have that trust now in myself with my creativity in that regard,
Yeah.
that I can do that. But that's, and that's, yeah, that's part of my stubbornness, and part of my, you're not going to tell me no,
Yeah.
or you're not going to try and tell me how, no, you're going to have to, you can't make a wavy canvas. That just doesn't work. I'm like, well, I don't know, I'll just do it. And then one of my favorite works that sits in my living room is a 5 foot by a 3.5 foot waved canvas that I built out of wood and burlap. And people think that I've carved it out of foam or something, because it's just so
Yeah.
wavy and everything. But it's just a stretcher frame that I created, and I stretched, something over it, and
That's
because I
cool.
saw it, yeah, because I saw it in my head, and people still look at it and like, what is that made of? How do you do that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't know. It just came to me, and there were a lot of people that were telling me it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
But
But that's so
but yeah,
true, eh? If you can
it
see it in
is,
your head, why can't you do it?
right,
Yeah.
right. Because why else would it come to you? Why
Right.
else would something be so available
Yeah.
to your consciousness if you were not supposed to incorporate it into your life,
Right.
right? And so
Gives you
that's
something
what
to think about.
it is. And I think that happens in everything. That's I mean, when you look at the great inventors, not that I'm a great inventor or anything, but when you look at those people that were very successful with that, is they saw it in their head, and they had the tenacity to go after it,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
um I'm more of a procrastinator at heart, so I have that struggle of, come on, make it, stick with it. You'll get there.
Ah. So part of our podcast is we are incorporating gratitude into each episode because
Mm-hmm.
it's important to share that. It's important to hopefully have that domino effect where everyone else will share gratitude every day.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, what is one thing you're grateful for today?
Mm. Well, I mean, I'm grateful to be alive. And I'm grateful to be able to be with family and friends, and to celebrate life with them. Um, but I mean, if I think kind of deeper on it, I'm really, really grateful to my body,
Yeah.
um, for speaking up and forcing me to listen.
Oh, yeah.
Um, it's a painful experience.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, at various times in my life, and even currently, because I wasn't listening, my body is reacting, again to me. Um, but it's when you when you can actually stop and listen to your body and ask it what it needs, you know, then once you work through the fact that you've neglected it for however long it is,
Yeah.
this time it was probably about, 5 years that I neglected it.
Okay.
Um, and ask it, okay, what is it that you need? What do you really needing from me right now? And then you start giving that to your body, then you see significant changes. And when I look back on my history through this life, these past 60 years, there are pivotal pivotal moments of change, where I did vastly change direction based on my body telling me that something is wrong right now, and I've been ignoring it.
Okay.
And so teaching me to stop. And so, as much as, people live with chronic pain or with, and it's been, like I said, it's been a painful experience there. I've had to have operations, and I've had, all sorts of things have come up because of the neglect. But when I finally stop and look through, make the change, honor my body, and shift, then my life blossoms again.
Well, that's
And so I am truly grateful for my body stepping up,
yeah.
even when I didn't want it. It's like,
Yeah.
no, not now.
Yeah. I'm
But it,
thinking now.
right? But the body knows. The
Yeah.
body absolutely knows. And yeah, I'm so grateful for that, for sure.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's fantastic. So how would you, if someone was in like depression or what have you,
Mm.
and you need to encourage them to find the good in the day, even though they're not having, a good time,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, what would you make, how would you suggest gratitude to them?
Mm. Um, you know, I've always said, baby steps,
Yeah.
right? And truly, I mean, depression is a hard one. It's
Yeah.
exceptionally difficult, and I have a family member who's been struggling with that for, almost, 35 years. And sometimes really, really bad, and sometimes can kind of come out of it a bit. And it truly is just having enough gratitude for getting up,
Right.
right? It's baby steps. It's you celebrate every little
Yeah.
milestone as a milestone,
Right.
because it truly does feel, just astronomically heavy and just brutal just to swing a leg out of bed
Yeah.
at
Right.
times, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so celebrate each what you may consider minor, but is really kind of a Herculean effort.
Yeah.
Celebrate that with gratitude and thank your body for allowing it. So movement is kind of is really key
Yeah.
for that. Any little movement that you can make, celebrate it.
Oh,
Be
yeah.
grateful for it. Whether it's just to even stand out of bed. And then, if you can convince yourself to, the next day, instead of just going to the bathroom and going back to bed, go to the bathroom, go to the window and come
Right.
back to bed, right?
Oh, yeah.
Every little baby step along the way. Celebrate it and thank your body for allowing you to do it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
That's such great advice. I'm so glad
Thank
you're
you.
here with me today. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Our
Mm,
time went fast, huh?
it did, yes.
Yeah. But I'm grateful today for you being on our podcast. And
Thank you.
I look forward to having you back. There's so much more, so many more questions and so much more to talk about. And I'd like to expand on this conversation. So, yeah, I'm just completely grateful that you're here.
Thank you. Much gratitude to you as well.
Well, thank you. And we will see you again. And thank you for being here, Theresa.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you for joining us on the Three Moons, Three Souls podcast.